Hello, my name is cmdess, and I'm originally from Florida. I went to California for 12 years and landed in San Francisco, and I learned a lot about production music in San Francisco because I wanted to get jobs in music where I could do a lot of production and creation, and the fun part to me is the backing material, the background things. You don't really see the glitz and the glamour about that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's like the production, the recording, the composition, the lyric writing, the songwriting, coming up with the patterns, coming up with the arrangements and things like that. And so I spent a long time as a young kid learning the ropes of the paths of music creation. And I have a unique skill set. I don't do drugs, and I don't drink, and I don't go out to parties. I'm a very boring person. And I don't have any criminal record. Sorry, Mom. And so what it is I've spent a lot of my time just trying to make the best quality music I could conceive of. And I tried to study the best musicians in the world. And I've always considered people like Seal and Michael Jackson and George Michael and all the other unnamed people that I can't go into. But it's like there's so many talented people. I stand in humble, humility when I'm in front of the gates of these gods of music. And I say, how did they do such a great job? It's very difficult. It's very difficult. Because in the reality of the music world, it's very unsupportive in both directions. You don't get a lot of support from the music industry, and you don't get a lot of support other than your family from the regular public. Because the ways of the industry sort of skewed all that and make it seem like, oh, it's just will to power and, people will love you and da-da-da-da, and it's nothing like that. It's just like a grind and a grind and a grind, and you'll hold down a job and all this kind of stuff. So I'm not really a YouTuber, and if you've watched my videos, you might believe me when I say that. It would be the one thing you would believe I would say. But I did do a lot of videos on YouTube to help promote my musical endeavors. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work. But I continue my musical endeavors just the same, and I have 1,000 compositions with ASCAP, and unfortunately, they're sort of a union that looks out for musicians. However, there's just a lot of problems with how they pay people right now, and they're actually being sued as well by independent people because one of the big problems in the music industry is the big record companies have like a monopoly over the market, and it's very difficult to get promotion, and it's very expensive, and no indie can afford it. And so what you have is a lot of the cartel type people who come onto the scene, and they have all this money to spend. And so you have I don't want to name names, but you have your celebrity types who have these shady records in terms of their background, and they're able to put all this money up front, and we're talking millions of dollars. I don't have thousands of dollars, let alone millions of dollars. I'm a real musician. So my background sort of stems from, why am I musical? Well, I had no aspiration to be musical until I was about 11 or 12. And originally, my father was a Juilliard-trained pianist from New York, and my mother was a disc jockey here in Florida for WKTK and now it's W Sky, and she's been doing that for like 30 years. But however, she couldn't help me with getting my music on the air. A lot of people, there's no nepotism with DJs and music as like there is in the rest of the world. The corporate world. In the record industry, you have to have the programmers at the top of the corporation program the music into the radio stations. So it's a real bummer if you want to get music placed on radio because it's exceptionally difficult and it costs a lot of money. And this is part of the industry that people don't really talk about. So that's where sort of my backing with music started. But I developed myself. My father had died when I was about 1, and he left behind all these books from Juilliard. So when I'm around 11 and 12, I decided to get involved with music because I heard a composition that really struck me, and it was like I was triggered into getting involved with music. For some reason, I was just possessed. And it was by a Russian composer named Sergei Prokofiev, and the piece was called Montagues and Capulets. And it was from Romeo and Juliet, and I've never had any success with romance, so that could explain like my interest in that or something. I don't know why I would even be interested in a piece about romance like that. But anyway, so I then sort of kept pushing with the piano, like pushing myself, learning scales, learning music theory, learning from the Juilliard books, and I was also going to homeschool simultaneously. So this is the tricky part where I snuck in a lot more music than your average person would have been able to, because I really loved like trying to get involved with this world, the music world. Because at the time, the way that they make it seem on TV and all that is like music is like your one shot at a break in this world, or the entertainment industry is your one shot at a break if you have the talent. So when you actually experience California, you find out there's actually millions, or well, maybe thousands of people who are very, very talented. And they're just chock full of talent over there. And so it becomes what's called a buyer's market. And so basically, you're taken for granted no matter how good you think you are. So at any rate, I kept developing myself musically until I was about like 13, 14. I was able to like start making compositions using computer software, and I had to teach myself all this stuff. And so by about 15, I had a piece performed by a live symphonic orchestra. Now, I'm very shy, and so luckily, there was a pianist there who performed the piano part, and I really appreciated it. Her name was, I think, Galen Capitano, and the conductor's name was Susan Robinson. So I really appreciate that they gave me my first like big explosive break with like what music performance experiences are like. I don't think I'd ever really even been to a concert. But I had the ear on music because of my mother. So anyways, because she was both broadcast jockey and a party DJ. She would have like albums and like endless albums. And then my father had vinyl albums from the Beatles and all the stuff he was studying at Juilliard. That's why coincidentally there was additional like weird niche recordings like Art Tatum and lots of Bill Evans and a lot of jazz, because those people, like the New York people, study jazz, and at the time. Now everything completely has changed. Now everything is a totally different world of music. Now we have AI at the top of the changing, and then we have just so many different things with EDM and dance music and all this kind of stuff. So I got really good at a good ear for developing different kinds of music at some point. And so, but what happened is I developed an interest in modern music after hearing the work of Seal, and especially the song Crazy. No, not Kiss from a Rose, which is a nice piece, but it was the song Crazy. Why did I like that song? Well, it's a masterpiece. And to this day, I've listened to that song all my life. So we're talking, I don't know, like 30 years since I started hearing it, or whatever, however long it's been out, 91 or whatever. And so when I started to study that, what I was studying was actually the greatest, like, achieved producer. His name was Trevor Horn. And so that's where I started training my ear to figure out the inner workings of these productions. All right, so this is kind of rambling on. I just wanted to do a long spiel about like my background and whatever. But so once I got together with a guy in San Francisco, I was able to do like commercial work. And so I was able to take the stuff I had practiced and tried and tested and learned and computers and all of them, the hours and hours of trial and error, because the hidden component of this stuff is like you finally got the inspiration, which is rare, because that's the tricky part. It's like pushing for new ideas, new combinations, and cool new things to make you feel the spark of that, like you felt when you were first getting involved with it or when you first heard something nice. So I was doing all this pushing, and then I could develop like this ability to sort of go in between genres. And once I got involved with this person, they were able to hook me up with more commercial, steady work. Not a lot of money to sustain a living, but more like, help pay the bills and have fun making music. So really the reality of the music industry for a lot of like on the level musicians, ones that aren't involved with cartels, ones that aren't involved with the seedy side of the music business, people like us, we don't make it to the top. We make somewhere in the murky middle. Like we have the day job and we have a lot of work. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and it's totally thankless because when you release things, it's like you'll get criticisms on YouTube, you'll get thumbs downs, and and the only way you get promotion is like you paying to get promotion. And your mom will say wonderful, and that's about all your circle of friends or whatever. All the years later, it's like it's such a unfortunate situation that we're so undervalued, unappreciated, and unrepresented because the government's really not looking out for musicians at all, and the organizations that are supposed to look out for us just look out for the big companies. So it's really an uphill battle, and it's the definition of a labor of love, and it's unreciprocated love because nobody shows you support, in this endeavor. And the love, luckily, exists in the art and in the craft. So whether you give it to me or not, it's somewhere in the craft. And it doesn't always love you, but eventually it loves you back, and you say, wow, I did so many things there that I finally got fortunate enough to do something good. So anyway, that's a bit about cmdess in 2026, and I just put out another album, and I'm back situated in Florida because basically there's really no need to be in California these days with all of the remote work, with all the things going on with the industry. And it's just more of what's called a cattle call than ever, where you just have such an onslaught of people who show up to work that it diminishes like the rates of pay and all this kind of stuff. So it becomes a more and more of a challenge. So the modern music world for the modern music maker is, it's like it's a grind and it's thankless, like I was saying before, and it's a lot of money too. Like you have to figure out how to spend it wisely. It's crazy. It's just crazy. You have to really love music. You have to be about jazz, and you have to be about jungle, and you have to enjoy the craft, because there's nothing like I knew a long time ago. There really wasn't going to be the support there from other than the friends and the family or whatever, and then the other ones would get some idea of it. I mean, if you're lucky, you have the right publicist and the right publishing, and you're charismatic and you're outgoing and you want to be an extrovert and you get all the support from the love of the world. But a lot of that is just drummed up by what's called PR firms. And so in the world of celebrity, it's very difficult to distinguish between the real McCoy, like myself, and all of the people who just have really good PR firms. And I have never had a PR firm or anything like that. I'm just a lover of music, and I'm a creator of music, and I do many, many genres and that kind of stuff. So aside from having 1,000 compositions registered with ASCAP that are human-made, there's no AI, I also have around 1,700 music placements with several different companies, basically, but they ended up on TV. So music placement is when your music is used in a synchronization for TV. So I have around like 1,700, which equates to like somewhere around 200 shows and a couple of films and a couple of documentaries. And one of my first was actually for a documentary about the CIA of all groups and all ideas, but subjects. And so that's something that's like, I can say, well, at least that. But this is like what's going on in the reality of the modern music maker, and we're all just kind of wondering what's going to happen with AI. But that doesn't stop the endeavor to push for the origin of the dream, which was like my visions, my ideas to push music, my ideas to combine unique things. We have the most powerful, greatest tools at our disposal, and I enjoy it every second of being able to create while it lasts. And I give special thanks to all of the sample library makers and all the talented musicians who help create this stuff. And it gives us the ability, and the people who make the DAWs, the digital audio workstations, the people who support the industry, they go to the conventions and they promote the product so that we can have the ability to do all these amazing magical things. It's like the cell phone. It's like magical. So it's a humbling path, but it's enjoyable if you get what the craft is about, what the creation process is about. And so that's the gist of what's going on with cmdess. And I also created a thing called Groove Shadows, and I created a Wikipedia article about it. And that was during a time when it was created during a time when I was working for a company in Germany remotely called Uberschall. And they were definitely one of my favorite people because they in my experiences with work, because they gave me my first monetary break and let me try some things and gave me a shot at some things and let me start exploring my talents to see what I could actually do to help create products for them. So anyways, the Groove Shadows thing is about basically taking sound design and stuff like that and pulling from the spectral realm and creating like new methods of rhythm and melody, and it's baked into the Groove Shadow. And Groove Shadow actually should have been a huge break for me, but unfortunately, because of the ways of the gatekeeping of the industry that continue up into AI today, they promote like certain groups of things, and then everything else is just a loser, unfortunately. But I know I'm not, and I enjoy the process, and they can't take that away. So that's what's going on with cmdess here in Florida for like 8 years now. I expected to be here for like 2 years and then go back to California, but I'm saying, there's no reason anymore. There's just nothing there. Big tech is there. Yeah, no thanks. So that's the gist of what's really going on with modern production. But it still took a lot of skill and a lot of talent, and it still takes a lot of patience, and it still takes a lot of wisdom to be able to put all this stuff together, and a lot of luck to have it make something that actually you enjoy and other people can enjoy. Have a good day.